In the Black community, culturally, we do not talk about mental health, period. It is not something that I feel like is important necessarily to the Black community. We kind of feel like, cry in the dark, get over it, and keep moving. Now, like within my generation, we are a lot more mental health savvy and a lot more mental health friendly. Talk about your problems, but it's still a stigma that we need to really break.
As Afro-Latino, growing up here in America, in this community, when it comes to mental health, we don't talk about what that emotion is. We don't talk about where it's coming from. We just, why are you sad? Why are you angry? Why are you this? Why are you that? There was never a process. And a lot of times it's when we do start to talk about it, at least from my perspective and my experience, we're always demasculated, right? We're always belittled, we're always shamed because why are you feeling this way? You have no reason to feel this way. Well, I just scraped my knee up and I want to cry. Why can't I cry? Oh, you're not being a man. You're being this, you're being that. It's definitely something I want to change in my lifetime, change the perspective on what mental health means to Latinx and also in the Black community as well.
For me, growing up, I have always seen it as something that's what we don't talk about. If someone is dealing with depression or if they're dealing with anxiety, you almost would beat it out of them, right? And so you would get in trouble for things that we cannot control. And what I'm starting to see now is that we're relearning that those things are not okay. We're starting to see now that actually going to a therapist and talking to them is actually more helpful than what we grew up knowing, which is, getting a switch or something like that, more so rather than talk it out. You don't talk things out.
Families struggle silently together. Individuals who struggle with mental illness struggle on their own in an attempt to cope or to overcome the challenges that they face. And so breaking through that stigma, and it's not a stigma necessarily about mental illness per se, but in our community, it's been a situation of, this is just something we don't talk about. We know it's there. We know that a family member may be struggling, but we just don't talk about it.
In the Black community in the church, some things are not going to be spoken on the pulpit. Suicide, they don't talk about sex, they don't talk about gayness, they don't talk about mental health, okay? They don't talk about drug and alcohols, right? I'm writing my dissertation on mental health in the church, and particularly in the Black community. Now, I know I'm gonna get some pushback and feedback, but at the same time, it needs to be said, it needs to be done, because there's pastors out here that's killing themselves, but we're not talking about that. You got people in the congregation that's going through this secretly, but you're not talking about that. You're sitting up here saying you can pray anything away. I'm disabled, and you know how many times a pastor prayed over me and I'm still disabled?
I was one of those kids that was always listening to grown folks' business on the steps of my house. And my grandmother and my mom one day, and I think an aunt was in the kitchen, and they were talking about one of our neighbors who they said was having a nervous breakdown. As a kid, I didn't know what a nervous breakdown was. And I thought, this neighbor was always friendly to me. She taught me how to bake lasagna. She told me how to make cookies and even taught me and my sister how to knit and crochet. So I was really surprised when they were saying that she was running down the street and she had a breakdown. Later on, I found out that she had a mental health condition, but it was something that people didn't talk about. Stories like that made me think about wanting to help. And when I got in high school, my mind was made up. I knew I wanted to be a psychologist.
I struggle with post-traumatic stress that I link with my anxiety, because post-traumatic stress is like a form of anxiety. I would say a lot of my trauma has unfortunately been from sexual assault, but my stress with racial trauma also now that I'm at the age I am now, I'm able to, be proud of who I am. But growing up in a predominantly white environment where not a lot of people looked like me, I internalized a lot of things that I shouldn't have. My family was telling me, oh, you're beautiful. But when I went into school, I didn't feel that because no one looked like me. And the people that didn't look like me, they were always calling them beautiful and they were kind of ignoring me. So I just took it as I was ugly. And that definitely played into a lot of my anxieties and my issues.
Post-traumatic stress disorder is a disorder when people have been exposed to or have experienced traumatic events in their life. People of color, particularly Black Americans, have experienced hundreds of years of racial trauma. So when you're exposed to racial trauma on an ongoing basis in your daily lives, you become traumatized. When you become traumatized, you experience physical, emotional symptoms, sleep disturbances, headaches, irritability, anger, flashbacks.
I was never taught to express my emotions. That's something I learned in my adulthood. So whenever we cried or whenever we acted out or something, we were beaten. I think that traditionally, that's how it was in a lot of households. So for a long time, it was just like I was very vulnerable. From my mindset is I felt like I failed because I didn't know how to be a man. My dad was ripped out of my life at the age of 13. So everything that I've learned of what a man should be was from, mass media, social media. And there was a lot of toxic things. Men are supposed to do this, men are supposed to do that. And by that standard, I felt like I wasn't living up to being a man. And I remember saying that I wanted to kill myself. And then I was sent down to the counselor's office and they started asking me a lot of questions. And I just told them flat out, I just miss my dad.
The suicide rate in Black youth is alarming. Depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder are some of the key disorders where people may experience suicidal ideation. So first of all, we have to recognize that these disorders do exist in the Black community. And we have to make sure that we are out there encouraging people to get treatment. NAMI is all about getting help early, recognizing that young children in Black communities who are exposed to violence on a daily basis are experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, are experiencing depression, they are experiencing anxiety, but many of these children are not getting the treatment and the help that they need. So getting help early, getting quality evidence-based treatments is also very important. There weren't many African American psychologists. When I went through graduate school, sometimes I was the only person in my class. We didn't have trainings on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Not one class. I know that's changing today. But when I talk with people that I supervise that are working on master's degrees and their doctorate degrees in psychology, they don't get much training either. So I thought, things like this have to change. Why is it that there's not many people that look like me in the field? It doesn't mean, though, that you have to be a person of color to do good work with people that have a mental health condition. But you have to have the training, you have to have the sensitivity, you have to have the ability to engage, and you also have to be willing to listen to their stories. That's the most important thing. You can take every training there is in cultural competency and diversity and inclusion and still don't get it. What's most important is that you should be interested in that client that's in front of you. If that person is from a different racial or ethnic background, a different religion, find out about who they are. Ask them who they are. Listen to their stories.
So the importance of cultural competence, which means having an understanding of one's own culture and then other people's culture, is very important because you want a mental health professional that can understand what you're going through. The second piece of that is cultural humility, which means that a professional's book smarts does not trump a person's lived experience. More Black people need to get into the mental health field, not necessarily as a licensed professional, but also sharing their stories, because you never know what your story can do for someone else who's going through something. So just more so being vocal and being a resource to other people, talking to other men who may be going through something, pushing past the I'm good and seeing what's really going on with people. So just showing us a little bit more additional care, and actually that you do want to know more and help people. I think that that's very important, and everyone can do their part in their own respective ways.
I definitely want to work in mental health. Right now, I'm in school for psychology, and my work with NAMI has made me want to do this even more and help other people. I know mental health is so important, and to be a voice, for, Black women, people of color, is really important for me as well. And I feel like there's a lack of representation there. I would love to be able to pay it forward and, do that as I continue my schooling.
God put doctors here for a reason. This is my opinion. I'm speaking on my own behalf. Psychiatrists, therapists, mental health staff, TSS workers, whatever. He put them there for a reason to help us. So if you have a member that's going through that, they come to you privately and tell you that and you can't help them, then refer them out professionally. Or talk about it on the pulpit. Don't hide it. If you want to preach to me about what I struggle with every day. I struggle with getting out the bed sometimes. I struggle with I went 30 days without washing up, without eating, just laying in my bed. Talk about that. Talk about the struggles you have as a pastor, because I know that can't be easy dealing with a whole congregation and you dealing with a whole bunch of people. That's why a lot of them kill themselves.
So sharing my story with Ending the Silence has definitely allowed me to see people that look like me find relief. To let them know that I'm not the only one who's gone through something like this, that I'm not the only one dealing with something like this. And I think it's just a breath of fresh air to see someone that looks like me to come into the communities that I grew up in and to share my story, because it's like a ray of light of hope, to say if he can make it, then I can make it as well.
What NAMI means to me is family. And so I know that anytime I make a referral to NAMI, that family member is getting every support that they need. They are getting connected to educational services. They are getting connected to support groups. They are getting connected to other family members who are experiencing the very exact thing that they are going through. What I also love about NAMI is that it is free. And so the communities I work with don't always have access to disposable income. And so to be able to refer a family member to NAMI and know that they will get the help that they need, regardless if they can pay or not, is very important.
I think NAMI had a really big role or part in me actively getting a lot of the mental health support that I have now. They provided a lot of resources to me as far as getting seeking out a therapist that I actually liked and enjoyed. I feel like they feel like home. They kind of help, they kind of find that problem, or they kind of scratch that itch for you. And that's the best way that I could put it, I feel like they understand and they provide so much support for you. You know what I mean? If you having issues in your family, they provide family support. If you're having issues with, your friends, or if you're struggling, you feel like no one understands you, they have peer support. They have people who are actively in every area or facet trying to really kind of tackle this thing that seems so big sometimes.
NAMI means to me that fewer people will have to suffer and struggle through mental illness because there are people who can go through and walk on the path with you and support you, making sure that you can be okay.
As an LGBTQ NAMI member, what I found to be most important and much needed is community and sharing your story and being unafraid and being bold and vulnerable and sharing your struggles, whatever your struggles are, because someone is dealing with the same exact thing or situation that you are. The more I was open, I felt like a light. Like I felt like a light. Like when you're quiet and you're closed off, it's like you feel dark. It just reaffirms what you're already feeling about yourself, like that you're not worthy, and that's so not true. But it starts with opening your mouth and just speaking your truth and knowing that you're not alone. It's like, say it out loud. Like, I say out loud, I have bipolar disorder. I say out loud that I'm a lesbian and I'm married to a woman. And being able to do that, like, that gives me strength in and of itself, and no one can say anything else to me because I've already put the biggest parts about me out on the table. So then you just have the rest of this glorious me. Who wouldn't want that?
I felt NAMI, laying in my bed, being depressive, watching Hulu, and a commercial came on, and it said NAMI. I said, what the world, what is a NAMI? So I said, let me look up NAMI on my phone. I Googled NAMI. And when I Googled NAMI, I fell in love. I seen what they was offering for families, the training, the groups. And I was like, yes, this is like an organization after my own heart. I joined NAMI for me and my son. And I like the fact that the organization is about family and is about love and no judgment and teamwork. And that's the reason why I joined NAMI, and I'm gonna always be a part of NAMI.
NAMI means living a good life. And NAMI is hope.